So, as we already know, for the counter-argumentation, we have a mirror situation, so the order will be inverted, and therefore we have Liceo Maffei starting with the counter-argumentation. Okay, so we have now Caterina. Sabrina? So you inverted. I see. Okay. Wait a minute. We had already prepared. Never do things in advance. Okay. So let's.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Start.
You said that memories defines the experiences of human beings. That's true, because our mind defines us as human beings. But the experience doesn't always make you stronger. Instead, it makes you weaker, and it could make you unconscious of the future and the present. Life, as you stated, life is full of flashbacks, but we live in the present. If you got stuck in a moment you can't get out of, you will never enjoy your life as a whole. That's the reason why moving on is what you will need. For example, after a grief, you should eventually come to terms with this loss and get on with your life. An example of positive memory could be, for example, a trip. After a trip, you should overcome the fact that you came home and you have started again with your life. You said that memory can make us grow and improve our self-growth, but self-growth happens when we are not stuck anymore in the past, when we manage to overcome. Then you said that our body decides for us to remember through a psychological process, but we decide what we want to remember, and therefore what it's useful for our self-growth. We don't remember every experiences that we had. So, how does our mind work when it comes to deciding what is valuable and what it's not? Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina. So now we have Tasnim. Okay. Whenever you are ready.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So today, now I'll be talking about some points that my respected opponents have stated. So you have said that past is not that important to be remembered. First of all, past is the basic information to build our future. Without previous knowledge, one cannot think about having enough experiences and having a good future. I can give you a simple example. For example, when you go to cook and you burn your hand, you don't just stop cooking. You pay attention the next time not to burn your hand. The same thing happens with the history. History is useful because we pay attention the next time not to do the same mistakes again. You have cited the history, and you have talked about the rivalry of France and Germany. By citing the rivalry between France and Germany, you are actually using the past to express as value. Why do you think we study history in the school? Not to have a good mark, for sure. Because we need to learn what happened. What is happening in Cuba and USA today, it is because we did not study the history well. Having said that, you're actually defending our own argumentation. People continue to study what happened during the rivalries, during the world wars, because we should never forget what happened in the past. They are always useful. Having said that, I can now come to conclusion and tell you that Matiyama and I strongly agree on the fact that keeping memories of the past is always a value, because a value is not for sure something negative or positive. It must have an impact in your life, or in a story, on a history of an entire state, or in a nation. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Tasnim. So now we have Katerina. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I think that what you're saying, it's not wrong, because basically it's very important. And of course, you need to not to forget the great events of our history, but that doesn't mean that we are allowed to live in the past, because life moves on. And if I had to put on a scale of importance the stages of life, I would of course put the present and the future first, and only then the past. I think that the only true value that we have to take into account is not the actual memory of the past itself, but rather the ability to analyze deeply and act accordingly in the present. As you said, we cannot forget about wars, treaties of peace, or encouraging speeches of presidents, and all the things that in general change the course of evolution. But are we really sure that only by remembering it we are able not to commit the same mistakes once again in the present? Let's focus on something very practical. Since 1945 we've been celebrating Remembrance Day. But in the end, do we really get the importance of such a day? I think that if we really had done, there would have been no Srebrenica, no Middle East conflicts of interest, no Vietnam War, and so on. So, the remembrance of something can easily be a double-faced thing, because some things remember may need people to worship some remarkable rules, just like leaders or political movements that are not right in the present. And if we could also have been stuck in ancient Greek, but then there would have not been, for example, Middle Ages or Renaissance or the Enlightenment if we only got stuck in one memory of the past. So we need to take into account all the past, but not the past itself, but the fact to analyze the past, and only then we can say it is a value, because just remembering it's not enough. We need also to analyze and then, learn from the past, but the past itself, it's gone, so we need to analyze it. I'm done, so thank you.
Thank you, Caterina. So, Gaetano. Can we start?
Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to start my argumentation by stating something that you said, that in some fields of psychology it is very important to forget. For example, when we have been through some traumatic events, or when we suffer from PTSD. We think that you've been through a big error with this argumentation, because you have been confusing what's a memory from what's not a memory. Remember that the topic of our debate was keeping memories of the past is or is not always a value. How can be something that we have forgotten be a memory? So we think that what you said hasn't got anything to do with the topic of our debate. Another thing that, another error that you've been through in your argumentation is confusing what's a value from what's not a value. It doesn't matter if a value brings you negative memories or good memories. It matters that it brings something to you and that it changes you as a person. So we think that you didn't clear enough what's a value and what's not a value, and we think that keeping memories and values of the past is always a value. Thank you very much. I ain't got anything else to argue.
Thank you. Well, I shouldn't say this now, but personally, this is just a personal opinion, I think that you all, both teams, can be proud of what you did. So it will not be easy for us now to go and try to give numbers to represent your performances. That is, whenever you have to evaluate, there is a sort of gap between those numbers and what actually was your effort and your performance. So understand that this will be a hard task for the three of us, but before doing that, I do really want to express my congratulations for what you came up with during this final event. So I will do it. I would say it once again after I will speak with. After that, I spoke with my colleagues here. But just something very spontaneously that came out, and I wanted to share it with you before going to evaluate your performances. So now, please wait here. Don't forget that we are on streaming, so don't do anything you might regret for. We are online. So now it will be the jury that will move in another room, and we will be back in, let's say, 15 minutes or so. So see you later then.